I grew up in the era of Star Wars and Jaws and E.T. and Steven Spielberg, and all the way back into the great hero stories, Joseph Campbell, and even the Greek story is Homer and Iliad. So I think in big terms. And I think when you talk about business, you got to think in big terms. You got to communicate who you are and what you do in ways that people can understand quickly, and you have to be engaged.
Hello, and welcome to another MarketMuse Content Strategy webinar in our Content Strategy webinar series. I'm your host, Jeff Coyle, the co-founder and chief strategy officer for MarketMuse. And today is two of my favorite topics that we're going to get into with storytelling, how small businesses can make a big impact. And those two topics would be storytelling, obviously, and small business marketing, because that's where the tough money's made. I'm so excited about our guest today. He's the CEO and co-founder of Arrow AI. Nolan Reichel, thanks for joining us today. Tell us first about a little bit about yourself, where you are, and a little bit about the mission of Arrow.
Yeah, Jeff, great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to be here. Arrow AI is a company built with one thing in mind, which is small and local businesses. We built our company around a really simple idea, which is that local businesses, mid-sized businesses, small businesses. And when I say small, you could still be doing 25 million a year in revenue and have 25 people in your company or 40 people in your company. You're still a small business, but you're a significant enterprise, right? You're putting jobs in your community and people are making a living, and that's not something to be taken lightly. But we built it on a very simple idea, which is that small businesses have an incredible level of competency at the things that they do, which is running their company and building their products or delivering their services.
Very cool. Yeah, I love what you're doing. I love a lot of the messages, and I have a lot of questions for you that I will walk through about the way that small businesses think about marketing and positioning themselves and positioning them business. But it all really ties down to having an appropriate story for your business and representing your expertise and representing that story really well. So how do you think about storytelling for small business, and why is it different than it might be for a mid-market to small enterprise, or how someone might traditionally think about building narratives?
Yeah, when I think about storytelling, I think about movies. I grew up in the era of Star Wars and Jaws and E.T. and Steven Spielberg, and all the way back into the great hero stories, Joseph Campbell, and even the Greek story is Homer and Iliad. So I think in big terms. And I think when you talk about business, you got to think in big terms. You got to communicate who you are and what you do in ways that people can understand quickly, and you have to be engaging.
Yeah, I find that a lot of times small to mid-market businesses, regardless of whether they are local focused or not, will tend to stop short at differentiated features. So they might get to the point of what's special about you, but turning that into a narrative is where they're not taking that next step. They get stuck in kind of the outputs of what it means to market. So I need blog week this week. I need post this week. This kind of fear of not posting. And so how do you think about that outputs versus outcomes, and like how that's the narrative, right? It's not, being so focused on doing things instead of having outcomes.
It's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned those words, fear of not posting. We talk about that a lot. We talk about our website. We talk about internally. And I'll even go one step further, Jeff, and share that we as a company ourselves went through the same evolution and same process of how do we talk about ourselves as a company, but how do we engage as well? And one of the things that we talk about is, look, small businesses need a check mark, not a checklist, right? So often we tell small businesses 5 ways to be better, 7 ways to improve, all these things. But look, we all know what we need to do. We need to get engaging messages out. We need to communicate with our community. So our focus is giving people the thing to do, the tool itself, whether it be a fun, easy meme you can use in our tool, or whether it be a creative capability.
I think that people believe, and I'm interested in your taking this, I think that people believe they're better storytellers than they actually are. By the way, if you've never studied storytelling, you are not a good storyteller. You may be a great anecdote stater, but telling a great story is not telling the anecdote about that party you went to last week. That's not a good story.
The way we talk about here internally at the company is we say, don't be that guy at the party, right? Don't be that guy at the party that only talks about themselves. And you talk about this difference between anecdotes and being a good storyteller. It's the same thing. We're all funny, but that doesn't mean we can all get up on a stage and make a room full of 400 people laugh. So those are really different skill sets. And both of them have a really great insight into that.
What do you do to instill the desire to tell stories, or the desire to be more than just features and benefits?
It's a great question. I think that desire is part of human nature, quite frankly. I think a lot of folks have the desire to do that. It's the tools and the capability and the time. One of the things that we should recognize, and I, as a business owner, as a startup founder, time, and I'm more than that. I'm also a father and a husband and a shopper, and I buy the groceries and I do all the things that, continued. It is a part of our lives, and time becomes a thing. And that's where I think tools come in. The desire is there. And we've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of small businesses over the last couple of years as we started this company. And one of the things that's come back time and time again is it comes down to time, right? How do you find time to work on these things between everything else you're doing? And I think that's where tools become so important, especially technology tools, because I think that everyone wants to be engaging and wants to engage and build their community, but with the right tools, you can find the time.
Do you ever get people that are just like, I don't want this to happen? Or they really just want, how do you balance that? Because I know this from having clients that do it, personal experience. Once you get to that critical mass, it's a big job,
It is
revolutions. That's what I mean.
I think that local businesses, small businesses have incredible level of competency at what they do. They're really good at jobs. That's how they stay in business. And whether that be run a local store or a plumbing service, or it could be tree trimming or a whole range of things, selling insurance or selling real estate, or all these things that happen in our community that make our community hum and go, the restaurants and these businesses. Incredible level of competence. So I think that competency is there. The expectation that tools are going to be effective and save them time and deliver value is there. And I think people generally want to build a community. Yes, they want to sell, but they also understand that the community relationships are so important. An amazing statistic, 1.9 billion people, that's 2/3 of Facebook users globally, are visiting a local business page. So these pages are absolutely critical to your success, because so often it's the first point of contact with that potential customer. And that first point of contact, what's really great about it, and this is where I'm going to take the pressure off a little bit, because you see this number and suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, and I have to have this amazing Facebook page. And what if my Facebook page sucks? And what do I do? All these things. To take the pressure off, one of the things is the page doesn't have to sell everything in the first 5 seconds. It just has to open the door. It's like when you walk down a retail shop and the store looks inviting. Does it look fun? Does it look cool? Is there a little faint music in the background? And it invites you. And I think that's really the first step, is you don't have to sell your business, close the deal, and drive the revenue in the first 5 seconds. It's really just more about having a page that's fun and engaging and opens the door. So that customer in your own community is going to pick up the phone and give you a call, and you're going to have a chance to build a relationship with them, and probably a long-term relationship where they're going to come to your store every time there's a birthday, and every holiday they're going to stop by and pick up a gift for their friend or their neighbor. We see it as a starting point, not as a closing point.
So this is where I believe especially in social, certainly Facebook, Instagram, and others, I think get caught up in a bit of a paradox. You've got first experience, right? This is my first experience with this local business or with this business on Facebook. And people aren't connecting their actual posts to said experience. Like, they think that they're going to control how someone has that experience. And shouldn't one be thinking that all your posts could potentially be? It's just like in SEO and with web content management. Every post, every page could be your landing page.
Absolutely.
And what if that post is wackadoodle? It doesn't represent your business well, or it's completely off. What if that's that first post? Or what if the experience that you have, you go into the Facebook page it's not the tone you want to set. So how do you how do you think about that? And hey, you have to have, what about consistency? What are the types of tones you're trying to set when someone first goes to your Instagram or first goes to your Facebook? And how does that correlate to these, storytelling and this plan?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it dovetails, I think, into what we were just talking about, where these pages are a starting point. And you're absolutely correct, Jeff. Your Facebook page, your Instagram pages, and this is as true outside of the US in other countries like Latin America and parts of Europe as it is for the US, where the Facebook page, your Facebook business page is your, and the other comment I'll make here too, and just to pick up on a couple of the themes is that this relationship between your personal page and your Facebook page is really blurred for a lot of businesses. They don't necessarily distinguish between the two. So you're always out there, or maybe your personal page is your business page. And one of the things that we do, and this is actually built into our tool, just to talk a little bit about our product for a few seconds, is we have is through the onboarding process, we actually coach people through this to make a few minor changes to their Facebook page that can make a huge difference. And it is
Mhm.
some of those talking about putting up a great header, getting a nice logo, making sure your phone number is right, making sure your contact information is there. It's a simple thing, but we forget about it. And it's just like your store, right? Like your local retail shop, you would make sure that you have the right address. You wouldn't misspell your name on the front of your own store. Facebook's the same. And getting a few of those details right up front makes a huge impact for anyone who stops by your local Facebook page.
How do you get into coaching people or coaching teams who don't have a lot of time on content and posting? It's like why they shouldn't be doing this inconsistently, why they shouldn't be just only doing this willy nilly or once in a while, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. Somewhere along the way, Jeff, I feel like we made in the business world, we made a decision that there was going to be business software and fun software. Or there would be
Mhm.
like business tools and then fun technology.
Mhm.
And we've tried to, I think it's a false distinction, right? Because Facebook is fun. Instagram's fun. You put up pictures of your life and your friends come and see it and you talk about it. So it's this really fun thing, but it's also a business tool.
Right.
And those two things have come together in a really exciting way. One of the things we talk about here at Arrow AI all the time is technology needs to be easy and it needs to be fun. When you get in a self-driving car, you're not thinking about the ones and zeros or the software or how it all works. All you're thinking about is, OMG, I'm going 60 miles an hour and my hands are not on the steering wheel. This idea of fun and engagement is so important to technology. And so to get back to your question, we all know we got to post all the time. We all know consistency of message is critical. We know from our own business that we've got to have the right hours out there and we got to post 3 times a week. But the way to do that is you got to put the medicine in the peanut butter. You got to make it fun for people. You got to make tools engaging and easy to use. It can't feel like a chore. And then that's just something we think about and talk about all the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is really fun.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Great to see you.